It's a love story. It was so hard not to sing that. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are getting married, and it broke the internet. I will tell you everything we know about the engagement. The Post got some juicy details. Plus, is the Trump crime crackdown working? Post reporters asked and DC answered. And Cracker Barrel cracks under pressure after the president of the United States tells them to go back to their old logo. Those stories and more today, Wednesday, August 27th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. It's a love story. Baby, she said yes. She'll take this magnetic force of a man to be her lover. She had a blank space baby and she's writing his name. In her wildest dreams, she was enchanted to meet him. Travis Kelce belongs with her. I could do this all day, people. We don't have enough time for all of the Taylor Swift love song puns, but I think you know why I'm doing this. Unless you live under a rock, you have heard that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. Swift broke the news herself on Instagram, and the announcement nearly broke Instagram. The post racked up 1 million likes in 9 minutes, and yes, mine was one of them. Speaking of rocks, our friends over at Page Six got some exclusive details about that ring. It's hand-cut, it is sparkly as heck, and Travis Kelce designed it himself, with an assist from the jeweler there. Who knew he had such taste? It's huge, but not tacky huge. A cushion cut, it has vintage vibes, kind of a throwback to designs more popular in the 18th and 19th century. Also, Page Six got some exclusive details. The engagement has been kept a secret for a couple of weeks. Also, the rumors about her song So High School being written about Travi all but confirmed. In her Instagram caption, Taylor wrote, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married," and added the song to the post. And we might be getting a signal about what the wedding will be like if these engagement photos are any indication. Travis popped the question, in the woods, but not really any kind of normal woods. They look like enchanted woods out of a fairy tale woods. It's giving romance. It's giving whimsy. Now, the news of the engagement was so big, it even came up at the president's cabinet meeting.
Well, I wish him a lot of luck. No, I think he's a great player. I think he's a great guy, and I think that she's a terrific person. So I wish them a lot of luck.
Now to a less lighthearted story about the debate over free speech. Remember on yesterday's podcast when I told you about an executive order signed by the president this week to punish flag burning? Well, it sparked a fight inside of his own party. Some conservatives are really unhappy with the order, while others, at the very least, don't think it passes the legal smell test. Eric Erickson, a nationally syndicated right-wing radio host, said the president is picking a fight with free speech and added, quote, "The executive does not get to create crimes." The newly signed order initially sounded like you burn a flag, you're getting a year in the clink, but it's a bit more nuanced. The Attorney General now has the power to prosecute offenders who desecrate the flag when they're also in the middle of committing other federal crimes. Still, some conservatives have their doubts that the president can do what he's promising to do. Jesse Kelly, a MAGA commentator, posted this on X, quote, "A president telling me I can't burn a flag has me as close as I'll ever be to lighting one on fire. This is garbage." Another pundit, Dana Lash, said, quote, "Flag burning is vile, but the government has no right to control speech or expression." J.D. Vance, the vice president, is unsurprisingly backing up the president, writing, "Texas v. Johnson was wrong." Now, he's referring there to the Supreme Court case that ruled torching the American flag as a constitutionally protected act of free speech. And now to a nagging question that Republican lawmakers want answered. Was Joe Biden running his White House, or was the White House running him? As you well know by now, the House Oversight Committee has been probing Biden administration alums to investigate the former president's mental fitness towards the end of his term. Now, the Post is getting some insight from the Senate side in a new interview with a Republican senator investigating what he labels a Biden cover-up. Iowa's Chuck Grassley chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee. In an interview with our sister podcast, Podforce One, he said he doesn't believe that Joe Biden was really in charge, that Biden was being controlled by his staff.
Considering the fact that it doesn't look like he was running it, at least in recent 2 or 3 years, I think he'll never get out in history as a very effective senator. or a very effective president.
But do you suspect that Joe Biden was being controlled by his staff?
Yes.
Also said that while he wasn't close with Biden, they'd been colleagues long enough that the Republican witnessed Biden change, quote, physically and mentally as he served out his 4 years in the White House. You can listen to the full interview now on Podforce One, wherever you get your podcasts. Now to our big story, the Trump crackdown on crime. Following the president's federal takeover of the Metro PD, the District of Columbia had been on a nearly 2-week-long stint without a homicide. But it's over, and that prompted the president to prod federal prosecutors to get even tougher. The 12-day murder-free streak in the nation's capital ended early Tuesday morning after a man shot in Southeast D.C. was pronounced dead at the hospital. And now the president wants government lawyers to seek the death penalty in all murder cases in the nation's capital. Here's what he said Tuesday at that cabinet meeting.
If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. And that's a very strong preventative. And everybody that's heard it agrees with it.
Washington, D.C. has not executed anyone since 1957, and the D.C. City Council abolished the death penalty in 1981. Now, the president announced he was federalizing police in the district back on August 11th, and since then, Trump says he's dramatically shrunk crime by flooding the streets with federal agents and the National Guard. Speaking to reporters at that same marathon cabinet meeting, Trump said his tactics are worth the cost of feeling safe.
So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime.
Okay, we certainly know how the president feels about it all, but does that line up with the mood on the ground? New York Post Washington Bureau Chief Josh Christensen joins me now to help try to answer that question. Josh, what are people on the ground saying? I know the Post did a canvass of people in Washington. Do they feel safer? I mean, are they on board with this? What are they telling you?
Yeah, we spoke to a lot of people in the DuPont Circle area. We also spoke to some people in Union Station area. But one of the most notable interviews we did was with a woman who owns a liquor store about a half mile from the White House, who had, gotten her business together about last year and seen this immense change over the past few months since the new administration. But she said even more so in the last month. And this is a store that she said had been victimized by crime in the past, so much so that they actually had to install a security lock that they would only let people into the store, customers into the store from the behind the counter, because that's how unsafe they felt. And this is, in downtown DC, so it's not a particularly high crime area compared to some other areas of the city. But she was saying that she had noticed, even on the customers' faces as they walked in, even among some of her staff, and the response times were much faster than they had been in the past. And the federal resources that have been coming into the city have just provided a lot more confidence to business owners like herself that they actually are going to be defended in the case of being victims of crime. We know that in 2020 here in DC, a lot of business owners suffered property destruction in those destructive riots during the sort of height of June 2020 in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. So she was one of the ones who really stood out to us, but there were other people who talked about feeling safer. There were some other people who also said they were unsettled and thought that it was a little bit overkill to have, more than 1,000 National Guard troops here.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of ran the gamut, at least anecdotally, with how people were responding to you. And for anyone who is listening who's not really familiar with that kind of Beltway area, the two places that Josh mentioned, Union Station, DuPont Circle, are high trafficked. There's tons of people there, tons of professionals, tons of restaurants, bars, stores. So you're getting a good mix of people who live in DC, work in the area, live in the area. So I'm not surprised that I feel like you got a bit of a range with responses.
And in the case of Union Station, there was a murder there in broad daylight just a couple of weeks ago that got a lot of attention. So it's a nexus point for kind of how well the crime crackdown is working when they're able to surge, National Guards troops to an area like that.
It was interesting. It's perfect timing, I feel like, you bringing up that murder in that area a few weeks ago, because I just mentioned earlier in the podcast about that 2-week, nearly long, 12-day, nearly 2-week stint of no homicides. Then there was a homicide. And we heard the president say that he wants federal prosecutors to go for the death penalty in murder cases in D.C. Is that a call that he can make? Is this something that he has control of?
Well, DC has abolished the death penalty, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for federal prosecutors to come in and seek that. We know that they sought that with the Boston Marathon bomber. That's maybe one of the most high-profile cases where that occurred. It's often something that's used when there are additional charging, enhanced charges for various sorts of crimes, not just sort of a simple homicide or something like that. But it's something that Trump certainly is interested in pressuring his new U.S. attorney there, Jeanine Pirro, to do in many cases. And we also know that she's going to be looking to increase some of the penalties that she's seeking for people in D.C. committing crimes, and increase federal charges as opposed to some of the allowing more local charges from the D.C. Attorney General and others.
So this is all coming, of course, as we're been just deep diving into the crime crackdown here. Now, states that the president has singled out as next on his list for a similar style crackdown, New York, Illinois specifically. They've said they don't need it, they don't want his help. Don't bring federal troops in here. And on Monday, he seemed to hedge that a little bit. So do we have an idea of where he goes from here?
I wouldn't want to predict where he's going to go next, because he's tough to...
Smart man, Josh. Yeah. Smart man.
tough to see exactly, what's going to pique his interest next. I will say that several of the executive orders he signed Monday, for instance, there was one focusing on, there was the flag burning one, of course, which got a lot of attention, but there was also one talking about increasing federal charges and imprisonment in federal facilities. And so really trying to move things away from the local DC criminal justice system and into the hands of federal prosecutors, which, because, DC has this special relationship with being the seat of government, it seems that would have more of an avenue where his administration could really get involved in law enforcement in a way that, if you go up to New York, you go to Chicago, the NYPD's just going to tell you to pound sand or whatever it might be. We've got this handled here. So
we might use some more colorful words here in New York, colorful language than pound sand, but you got the idea, right?
Right. So, but yeah, he hasn't, at least so far, he hasn't indicated any other jurisdictions that he's interested in assisting. But yeah, don't sleep on it. He might have plenty of others in mind.
Just interesting as we go forward, we don't have any sort of real stats yet because we're only a few weeks in. So it's really great to get that sort of anecdotal information from people who are living and working in this area while it's all going down. So Josh, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Now, a sad story from our friends at Page Six, an update on movie star Bruce Willis. In the not-so-distant past, Bruce Willis was one of the biggest actors anywhere. He starred in 70 movies, many of them huge blockbusters. Obviously, the whole Die Hard franchise, but the man had range. Sixth Sense, Pulp Fiction, Look Who's Talking, Armageddon. Now, Willis struggles to speak or understand language because of a debilitating condition called frontotemporal dementia. The disease is degenerative. It basically eats away at the front and the side of the brain. And quite possibly the saddest part, the person suffering sometimes has no idea this is even happening. The actor's wife, Emma Hemming Willis, is now his caretaker, and she sat down recently for a lengthy and emotional talk with ABC News' Diane Sawyer.
Bruce is still very mobile. Bruce is in really great health overall. It's just his brain that is failing him.
Emma wrote a new book about her caregiving experience called The Unexpected Journey. And she told Sawyer that it's rare, but there are still moments when he's the Bruce Willis we all know and love. And finally, making Cracker Barrel again. The restaurant chain is undoing its big rebrand, making what's old new again, or new old again. However you want to say it, the end result is the same. The very same day President Trump told them to take the L and go back to their old logo, they did. Let's backtrack here a moment in case you're not all caught up on the controversy. If you went on any road trips up and down I-95 as a kid, you can just picture the Cracker Barrel logo. Uncle Herschel, yes, this is allegedly his name. Uncle Herschel sitting on a wooden chair, arm propped up on the very barrel that gives the restaurant its name. He was the down-home feel, Herschel, tchotchkes, biscuits slathered in gravy. Well, old Herschel, he pretty much got left behind at a rest stop recently. Cracker Barrel unveiled a new logo that omits the character. It's just a similar-ish font, and that's it. And people hated it. It somehow became a politically polarizing move. You see, the Uncle Herschel character, who mind you Cracker Barrel calls old-timer, he and the whole aesthetic is really seen by some as racist, and thus the switch-up was deemed by some others as woke. The president counts himself among the critics and said yesterday in a Truth Social post, quote, "Go back to the old logo, admit a mistake based on customer response, and manage the company better than before. Make Cracker Barrel a winner again." And we all know the president hates a loser, and that company lost big. Its value tanked $100 million last week, but after Trump's post, the company stock rebounded 6% in less than an hour. And Cracker Barrel followed the money and the president. Here's what they said in a statement, quote, "We said we would listen, and we have, which means Uncle Herschel is back along with the old logo." Never in my life did I think I would discuss Cracker Barrel so much. This is supposed to be Taylor Swift's day, her big day. Well, the big day is the wedding, but her almost big day. But of course, now I need to know, what do you think about the big flip-flop on the Cracker Barrel logo change? If you need a refresher on what they look like to make your final decision, the pictures are up at the New York Post, so check us out in print or online. More importantly, the Taylor Swift ring pictures, they're there too. Speaking of logos, I love our logo here at the podcast, so while you're at it, take a look at that. Like and follow the New York Postcast when you're looking at that logo, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And would you like to know a secret? I've never been to a Cracker Barrel, ever.